So good morning ma'am, good morning classmates. I am Mark Daryl Amiswari, a member of Group 4, and we will be discussing the globalization and communication. So what is globalization? So globalization is the systematic process in which people and goods move easily across other known borders or countries. So how does globalization affect communication? So it affects communication in which it increases opportunities, it removes cultural barriers, and also it can create a global diversity among countries. So I will be giving examples of globalization. So first example is the economic globalization. So what is economic globalization? So it is the development of trade systems within transnational actors such as corporations or NGOs. So one example of economic globalization is the buying of car parts in other countries, and your country is the one developing it. Next example is the establishment of Asian infrastructures in American or European countries. So there is a connection between countries in which trade systems are likely to happen. So next example is the financial globalization. So financial globalization, it is the liberalization of trade in financial assets between various countries. So one example of financial globalization is the stock market between New York and Hong Kong. So what activities might happen between either of the two countries, it might affect the other, so because they are financially connected.
Good day everyone, my name is Kimberly Namuag from BSN 1B. So for today's video, I will going to tackle about cultural globalization. So what is cultural globalization? Cultural globalization refers to the transmission of ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. So here are some contributing factors of cultural globalization. New technology and form of communication around the world help to integrate different cultures into each other. Transportation technologies and services, along with mass migration and individual travel, contribute to this form of globalization, allowing for cross-cultural exchanges. Infrastructures and institutionalization embedded change. For example, teaching languages such as English across the world through educational systems and training of teachers. Also, here are some benefits of cultural globalization. It allows for profits to companies and nations, offers opportunities for development and advancement in economics, technology, and information, and usually impacts developed countries. Less stereotypes and misconception about other people and cultures. Capacity to defend one's values and ideas globally. Generates interdependent companies among companies. And lastly, access to other cultures' products. And that's it for cultural globalization. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this is Kimberly Namuag from BSN 1B.
Good day everyone, my name is Rika A. Paul, and for today's vlog I will be going to discuss about political globalization. So, what is political globalization? Political globalization refers to the growth of the worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. The system includes national governments, their governmental and intergovernmental organizations, as well as government-independent elements of global systems society, such as international, non-governmental organization, and social movement organization. Political globalization is the act of a single political system being spread across the world and being adopted by many countries. Specifically, political globalization as of now refers to the spread of Western democratic thinking across the world. Political globalization, the development and growing influence of international organizations such as the UN or the World Health Organization means governmental action takes place at an international level. What is the importance of political globalization? The role of political globalization on this point is forcing governments to adopt global institutions. It increases the number of international organizations in which a country is a member. This makes governments more accountable in the global area and forcing them to pay attention to protect human rights.
Hi everyone! Welcome to another episode of my blog. So for today's video, I want to discuss to you what is sociological globalization. Sociological globalization refers to the sharing of ideas and information between and through different countries. Idea that a single world or society has evolved, replacing distinct national societies that previously existed. So, the sociology of globalization focuses its attention to the study of the changes and the consequences that have been brought about in the country. It studies the changing labor relations, economic exchange, the changing political scenario with the integration of the world economy. So, the idea that the citizens of the world are part of the global society rather than individual nations and culture. So for the example given is equal work deserves equal pay. So social globalization, the intensification and integration of linkages between localities, economies, and cultures due to the increasing flows of people, capital, labor, ideas, and information across national borders. So, according to the sociologist, globalization is an ongoing process that involves interconnected changes in the economic, cultural, and spheres of society. As a process, it involves the ever-increasing integration of the aspects between the nations, like what I said earlier, the regions, communities, and even seemingly isolated places. The social dimension of globalization refers to the impact of globalization in the life and work of people, of their families, and their societies. Beyond the world of work, social dimension encompasses security, culture, and identity. Bye everyone! Hope you like this video. Bye!
Hello everyone, I am Chiselle Pingley and it is now my turn to discuss about technological globalization. But first, let us define technology. Technology is the skills, methods, and processes used to achieve goals. People can use technology to produce goods or services. They carry out goals such as scientific investigation or sending a spaceship to the moon, solve problems such as disease or famine. Modern technology has opened our eyes to many things. Technology has turned the world into global village as it made it possible to communicate more easily. Hence, going back to our topic, technological globalization is basically where millions of people are interconnected. This is particularly driven by social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Skype, or YouTube. Technology is the physical and organizational enabler. Without appropriate technology, there would be no globalization because it is through technology that we extend social control access across the dimensions of space and time. Moreover, if it weren't for the technologies such as the internet and global communication, it would not have been possible to witness the increased interdependence of companies and countries. One of the examples of technological globalization is mobile banking. People may now access money more quickly than ever before, both at home and around the world. That is because of mobile banking. Smartphone stock trading apps, in particular, allow capital to be moved around the world more faster, accelerating globalization and lowering the cost startup financing to enable new business creation.
Hey guys, so this is Quizzy Quinones, and for today's vlog, I'm going to tackle about the geographic globalization. So geographic globalization is defined as the set of processes such as economic, social, cultural, technological, and institutional that contribute to the relationship between societies and individuals around the world. It is a progressive process by which exchanges and flows between different parts of the world are intensified. Some critics have also pointed out that globalization has negative effects on the environment. Therefore, the huge growth of transportation that has served as the foundation of globalization is also responsible for serious environmental issues such as greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, and air pollution. But in some other point, globalization can help spread the positive effects of environmentally friendly technologies and practices for developed to developing countries. This can help poor nations minimize pollution by importing greener technologies or adopting stronger environmental policies and standards.
And now let's move on to ecological globalization. Ecological globalization refers to global environmental issues including population growth, access to food, worldwide reduction in biodiversity, the gap between rich and poor, human-induced climate change, and global environmental degradation. Population growth. There has been a vast increase in population growth in certain areas of the world. Example, India, Nigeria, China, and Ethiopia. Food access. The world produces enough food to feed everyone. For the world as a whole, per capita food availability has risen from about 220 kilocalories per person every day to 2,790 kilocalories for every person per day in a 50-year period. The principal problem is that many people in the world still do not have sufficient income to purchase enough food or land to grow. Reduction in biodiversity. The reduction of biodiversity is putting our health and livelihoods at risk. Plants, animals, water, land, atmosphere, and humans create the interdependent ecosystem that links us together. Reduced biodiversity means that millions of people will have food that is vulnerable to pests and disease, and there will be a short supply of fresh water. Rich versus poor. More than 80% of the world's population lives in countries where income differentials are widening. According to UNICEF, 22,000 children die each day due to poverty. Nations formed close to the equator in tropical regions have a large amount of poverty-stricken citizens, a large amount of economic disparity, and frequent governmental revolutions. Environmental degradation refers to the deterioration of our environment through the decrease in a variety of resources. For example, air, water, and soil. The degradation can have an impact upon wildlife plants, animals, and microorganisms, can sometimes result in the destruction of ecosystems and the extinctions of species. Climate change. Global warming has occurred faster than any other climate change recorded by humans. Greenhouse gases, air swirl in the atmosphere, as well as land use charge have all contributed to human-induced climate change. And now let's move on to the local and global communication in multicultural settings. What is local communication? Local communication is being able to communicate with the members of your local areas. It can either be in your local language or the mother tongue, or a common language that you speak within your town. While global communication is a term used to describe ways to connect, share, relate, and mobilize across geographic, political, economic, social, and cultural divides. It redefines soft and hard power, as well as information power and diplomacy in ways that considered by traditional theorists of international relations. Local and global communication in multicultural settings, it is intended a challenge to communicate to a person with cultural diversity because a context may differ depending on the person's perception of word meaning in relation to their culture. The culture shapes so much of the way a person interacts with each other. And then, when you think about language barriers and vocabulary used by different generations, it is easy to see where miscommunication can happen. Barriers to local and global communication in multicultural setting. Some of the barriers to effective communication are language, medium of communications, personality, and culture. Culture becomes a barrier to an effective communication when a person has different language bearing and they have different interpretation to such words. Example of which is the OK sign done by everyone. One gesture has a lot of interpretation. In US, the OK sign means okay, while in Brazil, it means an insult when you do the OK sign. The picture above clearly states the different meaning of a hand gestures. It goes to show that the culture is different from someone else. Misunderstanding will likely to occur. The best way to avoid such thing is to learn others' culture and to set an awareness as to how one will react and behave when such situation arise. It is advised to know and learn the culture beforehand to avoid misconception. Be wary for how you deliver your words or show your gesture because it may lead to a lot of misconception. It is important to use formal words in order to not offend others, despite of culture's differences.
Hi, good day everyone. I am Suhaila Dirascal from BSM 1B, and for today I'm going to summarize the topic. So, globalization. Globalization is a process of interaction and integration among the people, companies, and governments of different nations. So the part of this is, number one is economic globalization. Economic globalization refers to the widespread international movement of goods, capital, services, technology, and information. So next one is the financial globalization. It is an aggregate concept that refers to increasing a global linkage created through cross-border financial flows. And the third one is the cultural globalization. It is a phenomenon by which the experience of everyday life is influenced by the diffusion of commodities and ideas. It affects the standardization of cultural expression around the world. And next is the political globalization. Political globalization refers to the growth of a worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. And next is the sociological globalization. A sociological globalization is the changes and the consequences that have been brought about in the country as a result of globalization. And next is the technological globalization. It is a spread in large part of technological diffusion, the spread of technology across borders. And next is the geographic globalization. It is a set process that contributes to the relationship between societies and individuals around the world. And next is the ecological globalization. It refers to global environment issues including population growth, access to food, worldwide reduction in biodiversity, and the gap between rich and poor. And next is a local and global communication. So the difference of this is the local communication is being able to communicate with the members of your local area, while the global communication is the term used to describe ways to connect, share, and relate and mobilize across geographic, political, economic, and social and culture divides. And the multicultural refers to a society that contains several cultural and ethnic groups. And that's all for the group 4. Thank you for watching.